Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's wonderful for us to have Simon Alleyne, who's Program Officer with the Department of Emergency Management. And today we're looking at the upcoming launch of Coastal Hazards and Earthquake Smart Month. Simon?
Yes, hi, good morning to you, T.
Always good to see you.
Good to see you too as well.
Wearing this hat today.
Yep.
Because we've been talking about you for the past few days in a totally different light.
The performing arts and culture.
The performing arts and culture.
That's right.
And of course, what you're doing throughout the communities on the weekend.
That's right.
So we'll save talking about that for another time. But
Correct.
Today, we're looking at the all-important start of the upcoming Coastal Hazards and Earthquake Smart Month. What does that mean in real terms?
So basically, for the month of March, at the Department of Emergency Management, we work with our partners, the Coastal Zone Management Unit, to build public awareness on the tsunami hazard as well as being earthquake smart. So for the month of March, we're going to have a number of activities that would engage the public. We're starting with our launch this Friday at 10 a.m. at the Folkestone Marine Park. So we're inviting everyone. We've already sent out letters to the schools. We've invited service clubs and other government departments and private sector entities to come out to learn more about the tsunami project that is being done in Barbados with regards to early warning and having signs along the coastal areas that would have been identified to be somewhat inundated if we have a tsunami. But more important, we want to get Barbadians into the habit of understanding that we're in a multi-hazard society. It's not just hurricanes from June to November, but you would remember we would have had things like the ash fall that occurred, although we don't have a volcano here in Barbados. So it's important that we take preparedness seriously. And I think more importantly for the month of March, as we focus on coastal hazards and earthquakes, that we get our young people involved. So we have, this Friday, we have a number of booths for exhibitors sharing information about coastal management as well as preparedness activities that they can take.
Absolutely. And I think for a long time we've kind of been saying God is a Bajan. And that meant that nothing would happen to us ever. However, it's important because of the environment within which we live that we're fully aware of all of these hazards.
That's right.
That present themselves.
Because knowledge is power. And the thing about it is that we're not saying that an earthquake is going to happen tomorrow. We're not saying that. But what we're saying is that in the event of an earthquake happening, we should know what to do. You know, I am fortunate to travel a couple times a year. And no matter whenever I get on an airline, doesn't matter which airline it is across the world, there is always that safety brief at the beginning that, you know, you need your life jackets are under the seat. In case of emergency, you know, you tuck your head behind the seat and so on. And it's the same thing when it comes to hazards. Obviously, if you're on a coastal area and an earthquake occurs, after the initial shaking, you evacuate by foot and you try to go further inland. Because we recognize that obviously if an earthquake occurs, you don't want to get in your car and be stuck in traffic along the whole coastal area. You have to go further inland, you move by foot, you get your family and you go inland.
Of course, preparedness means that we're helping people understand how to do this and how to make a plan. And next Friday, there's going to be a simulation that people can be a part of. Tell us more. Right,
so that simulation basically is for what we will call our Earthquake Smart Day. And that's happening on Friday, March 8th. And we're asking people at 10 a.m., you know, we're going to have the simulation of an earthquake. And the international practice is drop, cover, and hold. We're not asking you to try to force yourself under a desk or your table if you're at work or at home. But we're saying to you that if you're in your work environment, you try to get as close as possible to your desk and you cover your head while you're looking around to ensure that nothing can fall on you. And then you exit the building and you go to your assembly point. Across Barbados, even here at Standard, there would be an assembly point not only for workers, but also for persons visiting the premises to go to in case of an emergency. So it's very important that we recognize that earthquakes can happen at any time. And the thing is, knowledge is power. Once you know what to do, you can respond appropriately, save your life, and reduce damage.
We truly are making inroads, you know, in that regard, because when you talked about the assembly points, most places you go, you see that there's a sign.
See the sign, that's right.
Where they have the assembly points up. And all of this is not so far-fetched,
No.
because there have now been 2 separate occasions where we at CBC have kind of had to run
Exit.
out of the building pretty quickly because of feeling some shaking, and one as early as maybe just a few weeks ago.
That's right.
If you could recall. So this is not far-fetched
No,
at
it's
all.
not.
And then thinking about what's happening down the region with Kickham Jenny, we don't want to scare anyone, but as you said, you have to be prepared.
Right, and that's why knowledge is power. So once people understand what to do, because once you train your mind and you're able to understand the steps, whenever an earthquake or shaking occurs, where you try to leave after the initial shock, you drop, you cover, and you hold, and then you proceed to the nearest exit and you go to the assembly point. You go to the assembly point so a head count can be taken, so that you know the members of staff who are at work, the visitors, and so on. That's why it's so important going into private offices or even government offices. There's always a log, like your name, who's the person who's coming into the building. That's very important, because after the impact and you have to go to the assembly point, you can do a register to find out who is in the building, who is outside and accounted for.
All right, so let's start with the opening ceremony and the launch, and kind of run through so people follow us in terms of what's happening and how they can get involved.
Right, well, first of all, I want to encourage everybody to go onto Instagram and Facebook. If you go on Facebook, you have the Department of Emergency Management. You can find out all the information about the various activities for the month of March. And in particular, on our Instagram page at DEM Barbados, you can find information. So on this Friday, from 10 a.m., we'll be at Folkestone Marine Park, where our director, Ms. Carrie Hines, will give an address. We also have our seated representative, Ms. Allison Broom, as one of the featured speakers. And of course, there will be some DJ music, a cultural presentation to keep that morning lively. And there'll be a dissemination of information and flyers. So we're encouraging people to come out, and that is on Friday. And then you can follow us, as I said, online to have a better understanding of the different activities throughout the month of March. But we're really trying to get everyone to come out on Friday, March 1st, for the start of this very important month of activities.
Absolutely. We'll continue to share. And you guys also are going to be out and about in the community.
That's right.
Just distributing some much needed paraphernalia. And that's a great way for people to be able to get their reminders, you know, kind of in the face.
Exactly. So we'll be doing, of course, the community walkthroughs and so on, but we also have the carb wave exercise, which will be later on in the month of March. But for sure, we want to get all the engagement of persons as it relates to earthquake, being earthquake smart, as we say. We realize that when people don't have the information, they panic. You know, we've had situations where persons try to jump through windows when the earthquake starts. You don't have to do anything that extreme. And it's important that in protecting yourself, you're protecting the lives of others once you know how to respond during an earthquake. And for those persons in the coastal areas, we want you to be aware of the evacuation routes leading from the coast further inland, because it's important that after the earthquake, that there's a possibility of a tsunami. And there are certain signs that you can see, whether it's the sea receding back an unusual distance, you're hearing a strange roar of the sea, and you're in the coastal area, whether working or so on or at school, that is when you're supposed to run to higher ground and run further inland.
And note that he said run.
Not drive.
I also note that you said don't jump in your car. On any given day, we can't get out of Bridgetown all at once.
Exactly.
So if there's a disaster, just know. And there's so many other things that go along with that. If we go back to the very first earthquake that we experienced, well, I have to say, me personally, while at work, everybody got on the phone at once.
Network went down. It was overwhelmed, the networks.
All of a sudden,
yes,
you couldn't get through to anybody.
That's right.
You couldn't hear anyone. And in that instance, I remembered, oops, who's on air? But that's another story. So, you know, even that, we really have to plan for.
Of course.
Because people are then going to be tuning in, like, what is going on? And they want to hear what's happening. through the media.
That's right, and it
So
shows the
everybody
power.
has the plan.
Yes, it shows the power of radio and as well as television, and we know that CBC is one of our partners as well, so that if something happens, we can get the message out there. And the thing about it is that we live in an age, an information age, where there's a lot of fake news out there as well. So we always encourage persons to get the information from credible sources, namely CBC and GIS, who would put notices through CBC to get to the public. So it's very important, and you guys have a major role to play in terms of public awareness.
All right. Thank you so much, Simon. As I mentioned, great to see you.
Good to
it's
see you too.
wonderful that you're here to tell us about everything that's coming. So we want to shake up your morning routine. We're going to tell you all about how you can join the DEM for the earthquake simulation. Set your alarms for Friday, March 8th, 10 a.m., and they're going to test the earthquake procedures across Barbados. We're going to make sure we shake it up for you as well. But of course, we want you to join the DEM and the Coastal Zone Management Unit for an unforgettable event at Folkestone Marine Park, Old Town, Friday, March 1st. That's this Friday. It's March already, people.
It sure
I'm
is.
trying to catch up. From 10 to 2, and Folkestone is just gorgeous. So go on down with your swimsuit and just get ready to dive in for a day of activity, excitement, and of course, education as well. So be tsunami ready. Make sure that you are earthquake smart. Know your environment. That's very, very important. And most importantly, have a plan.
That's it.
Have a plan.
Morning, morning.